Greetings at Cheating Story Lab. Share your location and let me know where you're joining us from. Remember the instant when you confront the stark truth that your entire existence has been constructed upon deceit, when the person you believe to be most honest in the world has manipulated you for years unknowingly. I thought I understood betrayal, but my encounter with my wife of 15 years' secrets surpassed all expectations. My identity is insignificant for this tale. Feel free to address me as Thomas. What truly matters is how I learned that retaliation isn't always about anger. It's often about inflicting harm. And sometimes, if you wait long enough, justice will present itself on a gleaming platter. The story commences with an unexpected phone call, one I should never have overheard. After wrapping up a business trip in Chicago, I returned home early, worn out and eager to surprise my wife, Caroline. Our union dates back to when we were both 25, and I believed we had established a strong foundation for our life together. I managed a thriving consulting firm. She held part-time work at an art gallery, and we owned a stunning suburban home we had worked tirelessly to perfect. That Tuesday afternoon, I returned home along our driveway. Noticing her car was parked there, yet an unrecognized BMW occupied the space across the street. Initially, I assumed it belonged to one of our neighbor's guests. However, as I neared our front door, I heard Caroline's voice through the window, engaged in a conversation. Her tone carried a panicked enthusiasm that I hadn't heard in years, especially not from her when speaking with me. "I can hardly wait for this to be over," she said. "Once the divorce is finalized, we can truly be together. No more clandestine meetings, no more deception." My blood ran cold as I stood on my own porch, eavesdropping on my wife planning the dissolution of our marriage with someone else. The attorney asserts with the available evidence, "I can secure at least 60% of all assets." Caroline persisted, "Possibly more." Thomas is oblivious to the impending events, being so trusting and naive. He still believes we are navigating a rough patch. The most disheartening aspect, she was correct. I had assumed our issues were merely a challenging phase. We'd been quarreling more. She appeared distant, but I attributed it to her job-related stress or just the natural fluctuations of a long marriage. I had even suggested couples therapy several months prior, to which she responded she wasn't prepared for that yet. Now I comprehend why. "Bradley, you'll adore the house," she said, causing my heart to sink further. Bradley, I recognized that name. Bradley Morrison, her new boss at the gallery who started 6 months ago. The charming older man she had casually mentioned, always with this subtle smile, I thought was merely professional admiration. I retreated quietly from the door, my thoughts racing. Spanning 15 years of matrimony, she intended to swindle everything I possessed, fleeing with another man. The treachery sliced so profoundly that I struggled to inhale. Yet, a business tenure of 12 years imparted strategic thinking, even amidst chaos. It was then, as the world disintegrated around me, that I navigated across town to a coffee shop and spent 3 hours contemplating. Morgan seemingly had an intricate plan, a lawyer, proof of some sort, the element of surprise, or so she believed. By the time I returned home that night, feigning normalcy while the evening unfolded, I had sketched my own strategy. The ensuing months were the most grueling of my life. I needed to preserve appearances while witnessing the woman I adored plotting my financial downfall with another man. However, I was also occupied, forging a counter-scheme. Initially, I enlisted Patricia Hendricks, an esteemed divorce attorney known statewide, to represent me. I confided in her about Caroline's scheme, and she, being a shrewd woman with decades of experience, anticipated that my neglectfulness and potential emotional abuse would be the key points she'd use in our case. As she foresaw, calculated divorces often rely on crafting a narrative to justify taking everything. Over the ensuing weeks, Caroline began gathering evidence, like photographing our home in disarray, which she purposefully made messier. She also engaged in loud, tearful phone conversations with her sister about my alleged difficult behavior, always when she knew I was nearby. Essentially, Caroline's performance could have earned her the Best Actress award that year, but I was equally acting out, playing the part of the clueless husband desperately attempting to salvage our marriage. Purchased flowers, proposed date evenings, and arranged a weekend retreat, which she found reasons to decline. Each loving gesture, every effort to rekindle our relationship, indicated in her mind that I was clueless about the impending betrayal. Simultaneously, Patricia and I were amassing evidence. Private investigators are costly, but their services prove valuable when your spouse attempts to empty your bank account. Within a month, we obtained photographs of Caroline with Bradley at hotels, restaurants, and his apartment. We discovered hidden funds in her transactions to unknown accounts. But the ultimate piece of evidence was a secret recording device that Caroline had been using to record our conversations for months, aiming to use something I said against me in court. Outbursts of anger, threats, anything to make me appear as an abuser, bolstering her demands for a larger settlement. However, I had never given her what she sought, even when she attempted to provoke disputes. I maintained my composure, frustrated, yes, but never abusive. It turned out that Caroline was resourceful. Our private investigator uncovered evidence of her altering recordings, manipulating context, and piecing together different discussions to fabricate evidence that didn't truly exist. In one particularly damning recording she intended to present, she combined my statement, "I don't do this anymore," from a discussion about not having the energy to clean the garage, with her own voice from a separate argument, suggesting I was making a threat to leave her. It was clear fraud, nothing more than simple deception. Yet, here's where the tale takes an intriguing turn. As Caroline orchestrated false evidence and plotted a new life with Bradley, I was organizing my own financial maneuvers. Given my consultancy dealing with international assets, there are legal strategies for structuring finances that many people overlook. Offshore accounts aren't exclusively criminal tools. They can serve legitimate purposes if used judiciously. Over a 4-month period, while Caroline schemed against me, I strategically shifted our assets. They weren't hidden illicitly, but rearranged in ways that were entirely legal, yet challenging for her to access. Business assets were placed in a trust, investment accounts moved to foreign markets, and even our house, which I learned Caroline intended to force a sale and take half, was transferred to a corporation under my control, although it had no tangible existence on paper in any way she'd likely search for. Each action taken was lawful, traceable, and supervised by Patricia. Yet, Caroline remained unaware of these events since she was engrossed in hatching her own deceit. The divorce papers unexpectedly arrived at our home on a Thursday in March. Caroline delivered them to me in the presence of a sheriff's deputy, as if I were a harmful felon. It seemed she had been overdosing on legal dramas. "I apologize for the situation, Thomas," she said, showing no signs of remorse. "However, we both know this marriage has been defunct for quite some time." I scrutinized the papers, observing her demand for 70% of our shared assets, sole ownership of the house, and substantial alimony. She also requested a restraining order, alleging my emotional instability and potential threat. "This appears to be exhaustive," I said coolly. "It seems you've been planning this for some time." She showed enough self-awareness to appear slightly uneasy. "Thomas, I'm seeking what's just. What's fair in this situation, isn't it?" The court case lasted for 6 weeks. Caroline retained the services of a tenacious lawyer, Raymond Keller, renowned for securing substantial settlements for his clients. They arrived at court with a folder packed with evidence, edited recordings, images of our disheveled home, statements from Caroline's friends detailing my behavioral changes. They portrayed me as a domineering and neglectful husband who had driven my wife to seek solace elsewhere. Caroline took the stand and delivered an emotional performance that would have moved any Hollywood director, with tears, dramatic pauses, and a theatrical display. She testified that I had become cold and furious. "I was terrified of him," she said. "Always so angry. I feared what he might do if he discovered Bradley. I just wanted to be happy again. During my turn, I chose to be straightforward. I acknowledged our marital issues. I expressed my sadness about the situation, without referencing the phone call I'd unintentionally eavesdropped on, nor her months of planning and deception. Patricia suggested I maintain integrity while they got entangled in their own falsehoods. Truth would be exposed at its prime. Judge Margaret Chun, with her 2 decades of experience, kept an unyielding composure during the proceedings. Caroline's attorney presented his final points, emphasizing a 70% share and portraying me as the story's antagonist. Then, Patricia took the stand. "Your Honor," she initiated, "the counterpart counsel has crafted an appealing story about my client. Regrettably, it's predominantly fictional. In that moment, we disclosed the raw, untouched audio recordings revealing Caroline's manipulation of the sound files, along with her concealed financial records demonstrating a year-long planning of the divorce and hiding assets. Most incriminating were the taped conversations between Caroline and Bradley, where they joked about their ease in draining Thomas financially. At this revelation, Caroline paled, while her lawyer attempted to object, but the proof was indisputable and admissible. Yet, the most astonishing development emerged when Patricia clarified my financial reorganization. "Your Honor," she stated, "my client has been transparent about his business transactions. Nevertheless, because of the nature of his consultancy work and the valid reasons for maintaining global financial structures, the assets Caroline claims are not accessible for division as she proposes." Essentially, Caroline aimed to seize half of funds that no longer belonged to us for division. Business assets were in a trust, international accounts were corporate holdings. Even the house was under a separate entity from our marriage. I'll never forget the expression on Caroline's face when she understood the situation. For months, she had intended to swindle me of all my wealth, only to find out that it wasn't mine to squander. Judge Chin showed no signs of amusement at Caroline's deceit, particularly the altered recordings. Committing fraud in a court process is severe, and Caroline had just done so right before Judge Chen's eyes. "Mrs. Caroline," Judge Chen said coldly, "your actions during these proceedings have been disgraceful. Not only have you lied under oath, but you've also attempted to defraud both this court and your husband with fabricated evidence." The verdict was swift and merciless. In the end, Caroline walked away with nothing: no alimony, no property division, no share of anything. The court mandated her to cover my legal costs and forwarded her case to the district attorney for potential fraud investigations. However, what made it all worthwhile was not the money. Instead, it was the revelation of Caroline's true self. As we exited the courthouse that day, Caroline abandoned her act. The tears, the facade of a victim, everything vanished, replaced by pure fury. "You villain," she spat at me in the parking lot. "You orchestrated this entire thing?" I calmly replied, "No, Caroline, you did." It transpired that Bradley had little interest in Caroline once the financial aspect was removed. He'd already been distancing himself during the court proceedings, and by the time the verdict was announced, he'd shifted his attention to someone else entirely. In one swift, crushing blow, Caroline lost her husband, lover, and future financial security. The aftermath was peculiar. Caroline initially resided with her sister on a temporary basis before departing the town permanently. Rumor has it that she relocated to Portland and took up work at another gallery, attempting to reconstruct her life. I genuinely wish for her to discover tranquility and gain insights from past events. As for myself, the business reorganization I undertook unexpectedly proved advantageous in numerous ways. The global expansion unveiled new markets, while the trust arrangement yielded substantial tax benefits, enhancing my earnings substantially. Initially a defensive measure, it eventually proved to be the wisest business move I'd ever made. I retained the house for approximately a year, but found it too bereft of life, overrun with both pleasant and unpleasant memories. Eventually, I sold it and procured a smaller dwelling in the city center. I embarked on a new beginning in every sense. The most challenging aspect was not the divorce or even Caroline's deceit, but learning to trust again. When a person you care for meticulously plots your ruin while maintaining a friendly demeanor daily, it reshapes your perspective on life and people. However, I'm improving now. I've started seeing someone new named Rachel, who is a teacher. Unlike Caroline, she is honest to a fault at times, even painfully so. She knows my past, and she appreciates the necessity of transparency in relationships given my history. Interestingly, I find myself thankful for what transpired in an odd manner. Not grateful for the betrayal or the suffering, but thankful that I uncovered Caroline's true nature before she could wreak further havoc. And thankful that I discovered my own resilience when I needed to shield myself. Occasionally, people question if I harbor ill feelings about what happened to Caroline, or if I went too far in my retaliation. The reality is, I didn't ruin Caroline's life. She did that herself. I merely refused to let her devastate mine along the way. When you learn that someone you care about has been conspiring your ruin for months, joking about it with their partner, crafting false evidence against you for court, you are faced with two options. You can be a victim or you can be tactical. I chose strategy. The day following the court ruling, I found a note from Caroline in our mailbox. Just one line. I underestimated you. Perhaps this is the key takeaway. Never underestimate the silent ones, the trusting ones, those who seem too kind to retaliate. Often we're not passive, we're simply patient. And sometimes patience is the strongest weapon of all. Caroline believed she was playing chess while I was playing checkers, but it turns out I was playing chess as well. I was merely engaged in a longer game. These days, I sleep peacefully knowing that justice has been upheld, not through vengeance or cruelty, but through planning, patience, and truth. Caroline had every possibility to act honestly, seek a just divorce, and conclude matters with grace. Instead, she opted for deceit and avarice, a decision she made. My choice was to anticipate it, and I'll never regret that decision. Thank you for hearing my tale. If you've experienced something analogous, know that you aren't alone, and understand that the individuals who harm us often encounter repercussions we could not have foreseen. Leave a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from, and share your thoughts about second chances and whether Caroline faced her due consequences. Until our next meeting, this is Cheating Story Lab, reminding you that truth eventually reveals itself.